start talking about the news. Um, so here's a few news stories. I thought this was pretty useful, especially now that I'm more into writing policy than I used to be. When you deploy advanced authentication, um, considering a risk assessment is important because you don't necessarily want to put two-factor on everything. You want to consider it. Um, Not completing due diligence is a big issue. When you say change all the passwords, the first thing you have to do is find out how many passwords you have, how many login systems there are, and usually it is a lot of different things. And a lot of different places they have to be changed. There are machine-to-machine accounts that are very difficult to control. Just getting control of all your passwords, knowing what they are, and knowing how you would change them is often a huge job for a company, let alone switching to two-factor, which is what everybody has to do. And of course, you should be using two-factor authentication. And this is extremely common. You make the change without considering how it's going to affect your workers, who now find it difficult or impossible to do their job under the new system, and so on. And you're going to have to train and educate your users. That's why it typically takes like a couple of years and a lot of money for a company to migrate to two-factor authentication. It is not just one switch you turn on like you might think it is. So I was surprised to read about this. I thought this was incredibly archaic. Microsoft is now switching to encrypt the Windows 11 hard drive. Now, Macs have been this way for years, and what's surprising is they say it greatly slows down your Windows machines to do this, which is pretty ridiculous. I mean, AES is really fast, the encryption scheme, and a lot of SSDs now have onboard encryption. So the SSD controller itself will do it. Your CPU doesn't have to. But what Windows does is it keeps on doing it in the CPU, slowing down your machine, which is very silly. So it just seems to be like this is poorly implemented. I mean, the fact is iPhones have been encrypted since the 3S, and they're plenty fast. So you can do it. It's just not being done right in Windows 11. So this is important. I had a student come to me today to start doing an early project, and they needed to use VMware, didn't already have VMware, and if you go to download VMware, you can't download it anymore. They got bought by Broadcom, and as part of the transition, they have shut down the store starting at the end of April. So you can't get it from VMware, so I just Googled around, and you can get it from TechSpot. There are other places that have a recent copy of VMware Workstation you can get. These guys have it, Windows, Linux, and maybe not the Mac version, but anyway, at least get the Windows version here. And so that's a thing to know. I'll have to add this to projects for my classes over the summer, and maybe in the fall if VMware doesn't get their act together. However, I'm encouraged that they do promise they'll give them away free. One thing I was afraid of is they might start charging for all versions of VMware, and that would sort of foul up our projects. It wouldn't be terrible. We'd have to switch to VirtualBox, but VirtualBox is hard to use and not at all my first choice. All right. So I expected this, and I'm sort of glad to see real numbers on it. They found 3 companies that forced people to return to the office. Microsoft forced people to spend half the work in the office. Apple only asked for 1 day a week. SpaceX abolished remote work altogether. And what happened is, in the top-level executives, 4% of them quit at Microsoft and Apple, and 15% of them quit at SpaceX. So that's the thing to know for people who are planning to do this. How many people will you lose when you force these things? Because, of course, during the pandemic, many companies promised their workers they'd be able to work remotely forever. Many of them moved out into the country far away. And now when you tell them they have to come back, that's asking a lot, and they're not willing to do it. Although, I saw an article recently saying that San Francisco's downtown is coming back to life. And there's even people there at night. And the RSA conference was very full of people. So I think the pandemic is really passing, and people are starting to go to face-to-face events again. So maybe we're reaching a point where normal social interaction is going to get back to what it was before the pandemic. So I've never seen this before. The threat intel companies name ransomware groups and APT groups from enemy military that hack into our stuff. They give them fancy names. I've never seen them name a robocalls crew. But now the FCC has named something called the Royal Target AI robocall crew. They're now going to give them names, and they're going to keep threat intel about the robocall people. And the thing that caught them out these guys is these guys use AI voice cloning to impersonate staff at government agencies, banks, and utilities. So they're pretty advanced, pretty dangerous, and I guess we're going to have threat intel about the robocall crews now, which probably is a good idea. There's increasing this whole concept of threat intelligence. They keep track of what the criminals are doing. They know what their tactics, techniques, and procedures are. They know what their goals are. They know what nation they come from. And so when you get attacked, these threat intelligence people can help you figure out who's attacking you and why. And for example, for ransomware, you need to know, is it worth paying the ransom? Will they actually give you the key, or will they just rip you off? That's one of the many useful things you get from a company that has good threat intelligence. Let me check for comments. There are. Microsoft reported the encryption performance issue only on Windows 11. Well, the only reason they don't mention Windows 10 is Windows 10 does not encrypt by default. So in Windows 10, it won't encrypt unless you turn it on. I bet there's still a performance issue. It's just that it won't affect most users. Most users just install things the default way. The point of the article is they've turned it on by default in Windows 11, which is going to mean everybody has a slowdown. And another thing, of course, in case you don't know, there are all these fancy technical attacks, but most attacks come from low-tech tactics, simple ones. USB attacks are big, just keeping people at phishing, like QR codes and so on. This is how most people get hacked. Not anything complicated or sophisticated. You trick them into plugging in a USB device that has malware. You get them to scan a QR code so they go to a website and get infected, and so on. And like I mentioned before, social engineering, tricking you into making a mistake, is more powerful than ever with AI, where they can use AI to write a really convincing letter and put in an email or an IM to trick you into clicking on a link. And so Elon Musk has once again said something stupid and started a storm of controversy. Telegram and Signal are two encrypted message apps. Telegram is a Russian product, and it apparently doesn't really use encryption at all most of the time. Many of the chats are unencrypted entirely. It's very unclear. Signal is a protocol which is considered the gold standard for instant messaging. It was made by Moxie Marlinspike, who is one of the world's leading cryptographers. He's definitely in the top 10, probably in the top 3 living cryptographers. So I really trust his work. He does excellent work in cryptography, and he carefully designed the Signal protocol to be an open source protocol that anybody can use. And I think WhatsApp uses the Signal protocol. So Signal is considered the best encryption. Telegram is pretty much trash, and Elon Musk used to say that. But the CEO of Signal is a Democrat and has a history of championing causes to try to stop Trump being elected. And of course, that makes her Elon Musk enemy. So now Elon Musk says Signal has security flaws and they're not fixing them, which is completely false. But Elon Musk has totally been red-pilled. He's totally into lying to promote Trump on many occasions, and not paying his bills like Trump, and so on. So he designed Twitter. He destroyed Twitter to make a platform where everybody is forced to follow him and see everything he says. He basically made it into his own media company to promote his own statements. I don't know if he wants to be president or what. I think he can't. I think he wasn't born here. I think he was born in South Africa. But anyway, he's now a purveyor of disinformation, in addition to exploiting his workers. And he seems to be a petulant child, just like Donald Trump. Apparently, last week, one of the members of his charging station team said, well, you can't fire me because we're the only part of the company that makes money. So he fired the entire team. And it is the only part of his company that makes money. So now he's having to hire them back. And this apparently happens all the time. And it certainly happened with Donald Trump. When Trump was the president, he would issue insane, dangerous orders like deploy the military on American streets to shoot the Black Lives Matter protesters, and the people around him would quietly prevent that from happening. He would issue illegal orders, and they would just arrange to take paper off his desk and distract him with other things so it didn't happen. And the same thing apparently happens at Elon Musk's company. He just does crazy things, and the people around him sort of shuffle the papers and prevent the worst things from happening. So I just got this. This is the analysis of an NSA attack on Huawei. So pretty interesting from a Chinese analyst called Pangu Lab. That the only thing I know about them is they have a very famous jailbreak for iPhones. So they're serious technical security people, and they found a attack in 2013. And after a few years, they were able to see in the hacking files the shadow brokers, which was the Russian military, stole data from the NSA because an NSA contractor had Kaspersky antivirus on his machine. And in violation of policy, he put top secret NSA hacking tools on that machine. And the Kaspersky antivirus detected it as malware and sent it to Russia, where they either gave it to the Russian military or, Kaspersky says, the Russian military hacked into them and stole it. But anyway, having something that sends all your stuff back to Russia is a bad idea, which is why I quit using Telegram. Despite their encryption flaws, I can't be sending my stuff to Russia. And so that was how they got the private key to understand this stuff. And they published it. So a lot of hacking files from the Equation Group, which is the NSA, came out. And so they were able to analyze the persistent backdoors. And, ever since 2010, American companies have all been complaining like crazy about the Chinese hacking into all our stuff. But of course, in case anybody didn't know that, we have been hacking them like crazy too. There's a cyber war going on around us. Everybody is hacking everybody and stealing everything, all the military attackers all around. And occasionally they get caught. And in this case, they got caught because the NSA made several mistakes. The NSA made a lot of mistakes at that time period. They also leaked out a hacking tool that was used to make the NotPetya ransomware, which shut down hospitals in the UK. So, what's that? WonderCoin?
WonderCoin, the hospital?
Yeah, I don't know the name of the hospital. Hospital in the UK, yeah. So but it was a worldwide malware outbreak from the NSA developing a hacking tool and then not keeping it secret. So the NSA has a really stained reputation now of leaking out their secrets, which is bad. All right, anyway, that's enough of the